So this is something that I've been wanting to sit down and talk to you guys about for a while now, but it took a while to get here. As you could tell by the title, I was diagnosed with PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I was diagnosed actually earlier last year. And it took me a while to get here to figure out really what was going on with me. And also once I was diagnosed, it just took a lot to swallow that information and sit with it. Being diagnosed with any condition, it can be a shock, of course, and also with PCOS, because there's no cure, you can really go down the rabbit hole and just think of the worst outcomes. And now that I've had time to sit with it and to process it and to kind of come to terms with it, I really wanted to do this video solely to spread awareness, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what PCOS is, and it actually is very common for women. I personally myself didn't really know too much about it at all until I was starting to come to terms that I may have it. And honestly, also I do see on TikTok a lot more girls talking about PCOS. I don't know if it's because they're recommending me PCOS content now that they know, but there are actually a lot of big creators on TikTok that have their whole TikToks around PCOS and being diagnosed with that. So I do think it is being talked about a lot more, but I know years ago when I was like in high school or university or even out of university, I had no idea what PCOS was. I kind of want to share my experience, how I got diagnosed, what my symptoms were, and what this all means kind of thing. So hopefully it can help anyone out there that is dealing with PCOS. If you are, leave comments down below. It would mean so much if you share things that you have done to help manage your PCOS or things that have helped you with it. And all the information is welcomed in the comment section. I would love to hear your advice or things that you may be going through if you also struggle with PCOS. I really wanted to give this update too, because behind the scenes I was struggling for a while. I really struggled a lot last year, and the year before, I would say, is really when my symptoms started to get not the best, especially last year, and what made me go to the doctors and figure out what was going on with me. So right now, I just wanna go ahead and share my story and how it all came about. Going back to last year and even the year before, I feel like I was struggling a lot. I felt all these things. I constantly felt tired. I was just feeling like achy in my bones. I just did not feel good. I also was starting to struggle a lot with depression and anxiety. And anxiety was definitely something more newer for me. I was getting really anxious at pretty much everything, and that was really unusual for me. I was also gaining weight really fast. I think maybe what also helped me come to this is because of the pandemic, I really fell off on my health game. I wasn't exercising as much during certain parts of the pandemic, and I was eating more unhealthy, and I think that really affected me. I was gaining weight really fast as well. It was really easy for me to gain weight, I noticed. So last year, I really wanted to make a change and become a lot healthier, which I did, and I did lose that pandemic weight. But with that weight loss, one thing I started noticing when I was working out a lot is I started spotting after I would work out, and I wouldn't be on my period, but I would be spotting throughout the month, and that really started to freak me out because that never happened. I thought maybe it's because I lost weight, so I'm maybe spotting a little bit, because if you see, that can happen, but it's not like I was losing crazy amounts of weight that would even happen. So I knew that it was just not normal for me, and I was starting to really freak out about it. And you know what happens when you freak out about things and you start Googling things? The worst comes out of that. You just Google yourself to finding the worst outcome. So I knew I had to book an appointment and talk to my doctor, and that's what I did. We ended up doing a blood test and as well as a ultrasound, and that's what led to my diagnosis of PCOS. So which, by the way, if you guys are wondering what PCOS is, it is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And pretty much what that means is that, from my understanding, of course, it's a condition in which your ovaries produce an abnormal amount of androgens, which is a male sex hormone. And as well as people with PCOS tend to have lower levels of the hormone progesterone, which might be why also you may be missing periods or your periods are irregular. Also, when it comes to the hormone insulin, which is the hormone that controls your blood sugar, if you have PCOS, your body may not react to insulin the way it should. So there's no known cause for PCOS, but they do have suspicions that it may be linked to abnormal hormone levels. Why it's called polycystic ovarian syndrome is because it describes the numerous small cysts that are like fluid-like sacs that form on your ovaries. So that is why it does have the name that it does. A lot of women don't even realize they may have PCOS. A lot of the times women find out they may have PCOS because they have a hard time getting pregnant, and that is unfortunately one of the worst symptoms that can come about of PCOS is infertility, and it is one of the leading causes of infertility. A lot of the time women go on without even knowing that they have PCOS at all, and I feel like I didn't even realize that I had PCOS for so long, and it wasn't until those spotting in between that really made me go to the doctor and figure out what was going on with my body. Unfortunately, there's no cure. There are like different medications, like a lot of the times they'll recommend going like birth control or different like things, but that's really just a band-aid. There's not really anything that's going to help, unfortunately, but your symptoms can be managed, and a lot of the times it can be managed by doing a healthy lifestyle and exercise, and just like incorporating certain foods are really great for PCOS and certain foods are not great for PCOS. So I've just been on this rabbit hole the last few months, like searching what's healthy, like what's a healthy PCOS diet and what foods kind of trigger you or make you not feel the best and help with those symptoms to manage it. I guess I'll go through the symptoms I felt first, and then I'll go through some other symptoms. The symptoms that I felt first, I feel like definitely is increased hair growth. I do feel like I also did struggle a lot with fatigue. That is a big one for me. I'm just like, feel like I'm always tired. I could go to sleep for like 15 hours and still not feel rested. And I also have a hard time falling asleep. So I'll be so tired all day long, and then when my head hits the bed, I'm up for hours and my body's exhausted, but I have a hard time falling asleep. I also do struggle with acne a lot, and I knew that I was still struggling with acne because I assumed I had a hormone imbalance, and I was told that by a doctor previously because she basically said because of certain creams and things weren't gonna help, and I tried all these different things, and she said it is due to a hormone imbalance. I actually had really bad cramps every time I get my period. It's like excruciating cramps and long, heavy periods. I know a lot of girls that have PCOS actually miss their periods or have really light periods. I would have a lot of mood changes, struggling sometimes with feeling really depressed or very anxious. And I just was not feeling myself. I felt so unhealthy. I felt lethargic all the time, and it was really stressful because I felt like I was drowning. I would always try and explain to how I was feeling with others, and I felt like I was just a broken record and no one was understanding me, and I felt like I was going crazy. I didn't know what was wrong with me. At first I was thinking maybe I'm burnt out, maybe it's because of this and that, and I just like didn't understand what was going on with me. So getting this diagnosis was a really hard pill to swallow at first because I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what it was. I just heard there was no treatment, which really was disheartening. But it also makes sense to me now, and it's kind of nice to know that I wasn't going crazy and that there is a reason, and I knew there was something wrong, and I'm happy that I was able to figure that out and to, you know, take it seriously and make lifestyle changes that I had to do or research into it and trying to be as healthy as possible. I wrote a bunch of other symptoms that you can have. Some of them being, like I said, missed periods or irregular periods, ovaries that are large or have many cysts, which I found out I had cysts on my ovaries from doing my ultrasound. You can also get a lot of weight gain, especially on the belly, which I can definitely attest to that. Infertility, skin tags, sleep problems, and all of that. There are so many other symptoms. Let me know if you've experienced other symptoms. I'm sure I'm missing even some symptoms I was feeling, but it was a really lonely path because a lot of people that I personally knew didn't know what PCOS was at all, and people just didn't get it or understand what it is, but it's actually a really big problem in women, and I believe, don't quote me, but I think actually 1 in 5 women have PCOS, and a lot of people are undiagnosed and don't even know they have PCOS. And a lot of the times it can be hereditary, so within your family tree, and like I said, they have no known cause, and it's just kind of still something that is just unknown, and you kind of have to learn to deal with it and manage it, and you can feel really lonely. And that's why I also just wanted to make this video, because I know that I felt really lonely for a while, and I was struggling with this silently for a while. Even just dealing with the whole spotting in between periods, I was really freaking myself out and struggling with it silently, not really talking about it. And I just kept thinking the worst, and it made me so anxious for months and months. It's always good to kind of talk it out and also have someone that you can relate to and understand that it is totally common and there are things that will help you. And something that I definitely have been doing within the last few months is trying to regularly exercise. I started actually doing more low intense exercising because I realized doing crazy exercising kind of wasn't the best if you do have PCOS. So doing more low impact exercising or body weight exercises or Pilates, that's really good if you struggle with PCOS, and as well changing my diet and just cleaning it up. Honestly, having all the good stuff really isn't that great if you have a PCOS. It can inflame it, and it just can make your symptoms worse, like having sugar and like white breads and stuff like that. It's just not the best, and it's unfortunate because those are obviously my favorite. But I started to incorporate more fruits and veggies, and more fish is something that's really helped me a lot as well. I have a lot more salmon and things like that, and it's been making me feel better. Whenever I'm on point, especially with my diet, I see my symptoms substantially become better. Something I noticed, I don't know if it's just for me, but caffeine really did trigger a lot as well. Unfortunately, I love my coffee, but it would just not make me feel good. And I realized that I really can't have a lot of coffee. I have to limit that, and just drinking water and staying hydrated is key to always making you feel better. And you're just going to feel also a lot less fatigue. I always had coffee and it would make me crash, and I just felt really lethargic and just like it just never made me feel good at all in my body. And I knew that it's just not something that I should be consuming on a daily basis. So that is my story on how I was diagnosed with PCOS. I just wanted to come up on here and give also an update, because this was something that I was dealing with behind the scenes a lot last year. I still have a lot to learn, so I would love tips that help you managing symptoms, because the symptoms are honestly the worst, and there's a lot of symptoms. And it can be really frustrating that there's nothing that will help cure it, and you just kind of have to learn to live with it and make sure that you are living a healthy lifestyle, because there also are long-term effects potentially of PCOS, especially if you're not living a healthy lifestyle. So that can be really scary and disheartening. It just can be a lot to take in, but I've just been taking it day by day and just trying to make as many healthy choices as I possibly can. So don't forget to click the subscribe button. I would love for you guys to be a part of my YouTube channel. I do post on my channel every single Tuesday and Thursday. And with that being said, I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.